go to the hotline, and let's bring in the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, the Emmy Award-winning voice of Texas high school football, and my co-host on High School Scoreboard Live. We go down to the Austin area to say hello to the great Craig Way. Craig, happy football season.
And to you, the mere mention of Emmy thing, given the fact that it's you on Scoreboard Live with me and Rick Renner winning an Emmy, I see what you did there.
No.
You know, that worked out well for you, too.
Listen. As I've told people before, just find someone's coattails and ride them. It's really the best way to go about it. We are here. Tomorrow is the kickoff of Texas high school football season. We slogged through the long off season. I want to ask you, because I felt this way a little bit earlier. Do you feel like this off season was longer than usual? Because it feels like I've been waiting for years for high school football to return.
Yes, I do, and I thought about that, Tep, and I think I know the reason why. Now, go with me on this.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason why the off season seemed longer is first of all, any off season seems longer in a realignment year because the anticipation builds about brand new districts. Okay, so that's one thing, and that happens every other year anyway. So you start from that baseline, then add to that the fact that we have the split conference alignment in 5A with D1 and D2. That's one thing. And then, on top of that, the absolutely mammoth, epic way that the season ended last year. So you add all that together, and now you know why there was all this great anticipation. So it did seem longer because of the dynamic way in which 2017 season and all the changes going into 18, it did seem longer.
I think that's an excellent point that I hadn't considered, is that when you close out the year with a smorgasbord of fantastic games, I mean, essentially, you look back over those 12 state championship games, there were really only two that immediately spring to mind that you would characterize as maybe a bit of a dud. Cy-Fair's dominating win over Midway, which was the score was closer than the game actually was, and then probably Carthage's win over Kennedale. But when you go 10 for 12, and especially some of the games that we did have, the obvious one being Manville and Highland Park, I think that Munster and Tenaha probably it gets in that category as well. Even some of the six-man games were really, really special. That's an interesting point that it kind of it whet our appetite for even more. And when then you have to wait 9 long months to get back to it, maybe the wait seems longer.
Well, I know you're one of those people, and I am too, that when it is over, are given to posting in social media, be it Twitter, Facebook, whatever it might be, and say, can't believe it's over. Oh, it's sad. Well, we'll see you next year. And so the waiting game begins then, at that moment, when we walk out, walked out of AT&T Stadium in Arlington, which happened to be coming off that last show, which happened to be the Emmy winner, because and the reason was the Emmy winner is not because of me or you or Ritter. It's because the show was just slam bang, because it had all those incredible recaps of all those incredible games, and it left such a feeling and impression on us that when we walked out, it was like, my gosh, it's over. Oh, can't wait till it starts again. And so then the clock begins to tick very slowly.
Yeah, as slowly as it gets. We're talking with Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, #TF Today. All right, Craig, I flash back a year ago, basically right now. We were in San Antonio for the inaugural Texas Football Days on Fox Sports Southwest. The game was Converse-Judson and Lake Travis, and Converse-Judson came out with it was close for a while, but then what ended up being a very resounding win over Lake Travis. You flash forward to later in the year to the aforementioned late December games at AT&T Stadium, and only one of those teams is at AT&T Stadium, and it ain't the team that came away with the resounding win. So my question to you, having all this experience in watching Texas high school football, how much stock do you put in Week 1? We're all very excited about the 730 games that are going to tee off starting tomorrow, but how much stock do you put in the results that you see in Week 1?
The only stock, really, that I put into it is that and it's only really from the marquee matchups, because you get a chance to see really good teams measure themselves against really good teams. That's the thing that I see. Now, I will tell you this: in the last 48 hours, I've had some lengthy conversations with head coaches of two of the top 4 ranked teams in the state, Hank Carter at Lake Travis, and just this morning, Todd Dodge at Westlake came in on my radio show and sat in the studio for half an hour. We had a fascinating conversation about Riley Dodge, by the way, his son at South Lake Carroll, and all the expectation and all that other kind of stuff. But they both talked about their openers, and to the layman, you'd look at it and say, okay, well, Westlake's playing at Belton. They should be able to handle that. And Lake Travis is playing Arlington Martin, even though it's on the road. They should be able to handle that. But they talked about caliber of opponent, caliber of opposition. They both feel they're really going to get good tests in the opener. And those are really just in terms of an opponent, the measuring stick. Hank Carter goes through this fascinating exercise that coaches of outstanding programs at the upper classification struggle with, and that is to find quality non-district opposition. And it quite often means a road trip. They got to go to the Metroplex back-to-back weeks to play Arlington Martin and Mansfield Summit. Mm-hmm. And he talked about that you want representative opponents just to give you an early gauge of where you are. Now, having said that, he's the first to tell you. He said it last year before they lost by 20 points to Judson in that opener, and he said it to me again yesterday that the team that takes the field for us Friday night, we're not planning on that being the same team that is playing in Week 9 and Week 10 and hopefully all the way up to Week 16, which they've done the last 3 years. That's amazing. Think about it. They played 48 games in the last 3 years.
Jeez, that's a remarkable number. We are here at Week 1. It's one at a time here in the early going, but I can't. It's been a while, and I feel like I probably say this every year, but I'll say it again. I think it's been a while since there's been a Week 1 slate that I'm this excited about, with a number of just really high profile games out there. Is there one or two that really tickle your fancy that you're particularly excited about?
Well, I'm with you on Katy North Shore. Mm-hmm. I think that's clearly a headline grabber. That's certainly there. Although Cy-Fair in the Woodlands is intriguing as well. Both of those out of the greater Houston area, certainly. DeSoto at Permian, mm-hmm. certainly raises an eyebrow. You look at that, and then down in these parts, Vandegrift at Cedar Park. I mean, Vandegrift is in an incredibly difficult district with the likes of Cedar Ridge and Hendrickson, who met the quarterfinals last year, and of course Cedar Ridge went to the semifinals. But Vandegrift is playing at Cedar Park. It's kind of in the district rivalry thing. What I've learned over the past few years down here in that district, if you're in the Leander ISD, which has Vandegrift, it has Cedar Park, it has Leander, it has Vista Ridge, it has Rouse, it has the new school, Glenn. If you're in that district with those schools, it turns out that almost everybody hates Vandegrift, just like everybody in Westlake and Lake Travis's district hated those two schools. And so, by the way, those three, when they were all in the same district the last 2 years, everybody hated all three of them, right, for various and sundry reasons and levels of success. But they're going to get a really good test, and we get to find a little bit about the reconstituted Black Rain defense of Cedar Park. Westlake scrimmaged them last week and asked Todd Dodge about him. He said, up front, they're as good as Black Rain has been. In the back, in the secondary, they're as good as Black Rain has been. The linebacking core is as young and thin as he can remember it being at Cedar Park. He said, but they're still going to be good. That's going to be a good test for Vandegrift. So that's another one, certainly, that catches my eye.
We're talking with Craig Way, the Texas High School Football Hall of Famer, here on Texas Football Today. Get involved in the conversation, #TF Today. Craig, it sounds like the same question, but I think it's a different one, and I think you'll be able to spot the difference. Is there a team that you're most excited to learn about in Week 1? That maybe you've got some questions that you're most excited to get some actual data points on in a meaningful game?
Give you a couple.
Mm-hmm.
South Lake Carroll with the Riley Dodge era beginning, of course, and then they play South Grand Prairie tomorrow night, Thursday game. So there's that, just to kind of see how the dynamic works with the new 29-year-old head coach. And by the way, and I'd forgotten about this, Todd Dodge, the dad, the coach at Westlake, of course, who fashioned the dynastic program at Carroll, Todd's first job, which was at Cameron Yo, he was 29. So like father, like son. So that's one. I'm curious to see just how good Lufkin's going to be this year, and I think we're all expecting them to be darn good. Well, we get a little bit of a test to see them against Longview, and that's another one of the matchups that I'm watching. And Hutto, I want to see is this the year? Are they ready to take down Cedar Park and take them out? Chase Griffin, how good can he be? They have Brad LaPlante taking over there for Steve Van Meter as head coach. Those are three teams from three different parts of the state that I'm really curious to see.
The one of the byproducts of a long, seemingly endless offseason is that it gives us plenty of time to think and plenty of time to dream. And inevitably, I think we all end up adopting a pet team around this time of year that we go, oh, man, this is the team that I just really think nobody's talking enough about, but I think they're going to make a run. For Matt Stepp, I know for like the whole offseason, it's been Atlanta. He's really excited about the Rabbits, and I know that we've got some other ones around here. Have you figured out which team you think is that dark horse that you feel like you're going to be like, here we're going to be like third round of the playoffs, and you're going to be like, see, I told you so?
Oh, wow, that's a fascinating question. I'd have to think about that for a minute. It hadn't really caught my. Yeah, I know we talked about dark horse state championship contenders, and I'm with you on Fort Bend Marshall. They're one, I think, but they're a little more out front, I suppose. As someone you can say, hey, watch this group. They could be really something special. It seems like the last few years we've been saying about San Angelo Central, and we find out, a little bit more about them early on, and they get some good non-district tests early, and then and even Permian. So with the coaching change, so I'm really intrigued there. I like the use of the term pet teams and stuff like that. You follow one team that maybe not anything really good is forecast successfully to happen, but they're a little bit close to my heart for a personal reason, and that's S&S Consolidated, who's coached by James Gage, who's Ronnie Gage's son, the immortal coach from Louisville. And I remember when James was Ronnie's ball boy on the sideline during those Louisville Fighting Farmer State Championships that I called in the 90s. And so I've taken an interest in the S&S Rams and how they'll do. And I've told James, good luck to you. I'm going to be watching, and hopefully things go well for them.
Finally, Craig, I feel like I've mentioned this on the show, but maybe not enough, is that you will not be in Longview with us for the Texas Football Days game for Longview and Lufkin. Instead, you'll be in Washington, D.C., preparing for an early kick for Texas Longhorns against Maryland. My question for you is, are you just going to burn down the University of Texas athletic offices for scheduling this game at 11 a.m.? How devastated are you that you'll be in our nation's capital as opposed to the scenic, beautiful, piney, getting close to the pine curtain of Longview, Texas?
Well, I'll tell you what, Chep, it's not UT's fault.
Oh.
It's our brethren at Fox. It's their fault. And I told Steve Simpson, and I told Jason Walsh, I said, what is up with you guys scheduling that? What is the deal with doing that? I said that shouldn't have happened like that. It never should have happened like that. So anyway, that was the heartbreak and the disappointment of that game got scheduled at 11 a.m. by FS1, and I said. And because they asked me, they said, "You're really going to miss Longview Lufkin?" I said, "Yeah, that's all your fault." I said, "You got the ear of the guys in L.A. What's up with that?"
Yeah.
I said, "All it had to be was an afternoon game. If it had been an afternoon game, then I would have made it because I could land there in D.C. by 10:30 in the morning, and I could make a 2:30 kickoff. But I can't land at 10:30 in the morning and make an 11 a.m. kickoff." So it was going to really push it. So yeah, I'm going to be agonizing Friday night. There's no doubt about it. Obviously I'll be keeping close tabs on what's going. Remember last year when I was out in California for the USC game, and I was sitting in the stands for the Rangers game against the Angels and following what was going on on my phone. Same deal again. I'll be at the Nationals Brewers game on Friday night at Nationals Park, but keeping track on everything that's going on.
He's Craig Way. He's the voice of the Texas Longhorns. I think this week, maybe he wishes he could take a little bit of vacation from that straight gig. But make sure you follow him on Twitter at CraigWay1, and make sure you tune in for his outstanding call of the Texas Longhorns and the Maryland Terrapins coming up at 11 a.m. On Saturday morning. Craig, appreciate your time as always. Happy football season. Safe travels out to D.C., and we'll do it again next week.
Hey, it's off and running, and looking forward to it. Thanks, Deb.
There he goes. Craig Way, Texas High School Football Hall of Famer. He was nicer than I thought he was going to be, and I'll be honest, he was nicer than he's been in private to me about it. He found that out, and I've never seen Craig mad. But that was like
it's as close as he gets.
Boiling volcano.
Yeah.
It was, and now look, y'all are going to be just fine. Mark Followell is going to call the game. Of course, himself pretty accomplished broadcaster himself. He called the World Cup for this during the World Cup this year. But I know Craig is he's agonizing over the fact that now he'll probably have a beer or two there at Nationals Park, which is an excellent place to watch a ball game. So I don't feel too bad for him.
Right.
But I know he's dying to get out there to Longview Lufkin. So
there you go.
It's tough.